The first indoor environmental quality prerequisite is minimum indoor air quality performance. And this prerequisite applies to the following categories. The intent is to contribute to the comfort and well-being of building occupants by establishing minimum standards for indoor air quality. By diluting pollutants created by building occupants and other contaminant sources, ventilation with outdoor air contributes to the occupant's comfort and well-being. The exact connection between ventilation rate and occupants' health are still being researched, but our current source of knowledge shows strong associations. Maintaining good indoor air quality depends on controlling pollutant sources, removing contaminants from outdoor air, and supplying at least some fresh air, among other factors. Let's have a look at the criteria. For the establishment period, each air handling unit in the building must comply with either Case 1 or Case 2. Let's start with mechanically ventilated spaces. Case 1. This is where systems are able to meet the required outdoor airflow rates. Two options. Option 1, ASHRAE standard 62.1, or Option 2, follow the CEN standard. Option 1, modify or maintain each outdoor air intake, supply air fan, and ventilation distribution system to meet the outdoor air intake flow rates using the ventilation rate procedure from ASHRAE 62.1 2010, or local equivalent, whichever is more stringent. And meet the minimum requirements of ASHRAE standard 62.1, or local equivalent, again, whichever is more stringent. Option 2. For projects outside the US, they may meet the minimum outdoor requirements of Annex B of the CEN standard EN 15251 2007. And as we've seen before, should also meet the requirements of the CEN standard EN 13779 2007 for ventilation. Now let's have a look at case number 2. This is also for mechanically ventilated spaces, but where the system are unable to meet the required outdoor airflow rates. In this particular case, if meeting the outdoor airflow rates in case 1 is not feasible because of a physical constraint of the existing ventilation system, complete an engineering assessment of the system's maximum outdoor air delivery rate and supply the maximum possible to reach the minimum set point in case 1 and not less than 10 cubic feet per minute of outdoor air per person. In case of naturally ventilated spaces, determine the minimum outdoor air opening and space configuration requirement using the natural ventilation procedure of ASHRAE standard 62.1 2010 again, or local equivalent, whichever is more stringent, and confirm that the natural ventilation is an effective strategy for the project by following the flow diagram in the CIPSE application manual AM10. For the performance period, show compliance through measurements taken at the system level within 5 years of the end of the performance period, and implement and maintain an HVAC system maintenance program based on ASHRAE 62.10. Now, in terms of the documentation, a relatively long list, and depending again on which case you are following, case 1, case 2, natural ventilated or mixed mode. So provide confirmation that project meets minimum requirement of ASHRAE 62.1, confirmation that the project has MERV 11 or higher filters, a confirmation that the project is a non-attainment area for ozone, if applicable, provide the ventilation rate procedure or CEN calculations and documentations of assumptions for the calculation variables, and measured outdoor flow rates and description of the method or protocol used to take the measurements. Where required, provide an engineering assessment of the system's maximum outdoor air delivery rate, confirmation that the project meets the minimum requirements of standard 62.1, documentation of the CIPSE flow diagram process for the project, and natural ventilation procedure calculations and ventilation opening information in case of natural ventilation. Any natural ventilation exception from the mechanical ventilation system should be provided, as well as any exception from authority having jurisdiction, and documentation about the ventilation maintenance program for all options. This is a prerequisite, and no exemplary performance is available.